Welcome friends to another r/Am I the Jerk Here video. Would you be the jerk for nearly killing your nephew? We'll find out, but first a story from Private Talk 7990. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that she doesn't need to be with her sick friend at the hospital? So my wife has a friend from childhood named Anthony. I'm being completely honest here when I say that he and I don't get along. It's not like he's rude or disrespectful, nothing like that. But all I feel towards him is annoyance. Sort of speak because of how much my wife sees him. He lives alone and now suffers from a medical condition, cancer, that requires him to go to the hospital regularly to receive treatment. I found out that my wife promised him to go with him to his every chemo treatment as support. She said it's a commitment she made to be there for him during this rough time, since he has no one else besides him. Okay, I had no issue with that at first, but then this started affecting me. For example, I can't go see my friends because I have to stay with my son on X day, so my wife can be with Anthony for his treatment, etc., etc. I've talked to her about it, but she said that Anthony needs company, and that she's just being supportive, and this is when he needs her the most. I let it go, but last week was just kind of my last straw. Anthony had another chemo session treatment, and my wife wanted to go with him and asked me to stay home with our son. I told her I had a meetup with my mom and sister to eat lunch and that I won't be home. She said that she needed to go be with him, and I kind of flipped out at her and said that she doesn't need to be with him and could literally go see him at home the next day or something. She threw a fit and called me cruel for forcing her to leave Anthony by himself since she's all he has and that I was making her look bad. She also said my appointment with mom and sister wasn't as important as a chemo session, but I decided to just leave to end the argument. She ended up staying at home, but kept ignoring me when I got back, calling me selfish for not letting her be there to support Anthony with what he's going through. Some of her girlfriends think I'm being a controlling jerk with no consideration for Anthony and what he's going through. Am I the jerk? Does everyone else feel unequivocally like me that OP is clearly the jerk here? Or do you feel like there is something valid to what OP feels here? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Our next story is from OnlyTill8916. Am I the jerk for calling my wife a jerk? So a couple of months ago, my daughter and I went on a daddy-daughter camping trip. My wife was supposed to come, but she had her period, so she didn't come. We had a great time, and when we came back, my wife was disappointed that she missed out. She insisted on going camping, so we booked for the same place for today. We timed it so that she wasn't in her period. Well, as we were all getting ready to leave, my wife decides that she doesn't want to come anymore. I get super upset and said that this whole trip was planned because she wanted to. I spent the last couple of days getting supplies ready and everything, and she says that she doesn't want to go because she's on a roll with cleaning and organizing the house. This is a trip I've been looking forward on going with as a whole family. So I call her a jerk for canceling last minute and not letting me know earlier that she had no intention of going the past few days. She says that I am a jerk for not being understanding of what she wants to do. So I think pretty clearly OP is not the jerk here, and I pray for OP's sanity moving forward because the phrase, "you're a jerk for not being understanding of what I want to do," is so selfish, is so disrespectful to you and what you do, is so disrespectful to the family as a whole for creating these plans and backing out at the last minute. I would literally be crushed in OP's shoes because the mother of your child just basically said to your face, "I'm self-absorbed and you're going to give me everything I want or you're an absolute jerk for it." This next story is from Cold Bookkeeper 4728. Am I the jerk for taking the diamond out of an heirloom ring for my girlfriend's engagement ring? I, 28-year-old male, have a 32-year-old female sister and a 37-year-old male brother. My grandmother left my mother her diamond engagement ring. My mother always said she would leave the ring to my sister, 32-year-old female, but my sister recently told her that she has an engagement ring from her husband, and she's not really into jewelry anyway. Why not leave grandma's ring to one of our brother's kids? My sister is child-free. A couple of months ago, I told mom I was going to propose to my girlfriend, and she offered me Graham's ring to do it with. My girlfriend was amazed at the size of the rock, but didn't like the ring. It was a traditional solitaire setting in white gold, and asked if we could take the diamond out and use it in something more modern. She picked a new platinum setting with a couple of smaller diamonds, and I was glad to save money. When my mother found out, she was surprised but not upset and asked if she could have the setting back. The inside was engraved with my grandparents' initials and a message. I didn't have any use for it, so I said sure. This weekend, my fiance and me and my sister and her husband were visiting for our parents for Father's Day, and my sister was excited and asked to see Missy's ring. When my fiance held out her hand, my sister had a surprised Pikachu face and said she thought I was proposing with Graham's ring. I told her it was Graham's ring, and she said, "Oh," and that was it. On Sunday, I noticed my mother was wearing the old setting, but it had a blue stone, a sapphire. I asked her what that was about, and she said my sister took it to a local jeweler and had the new stone put in, and gave it to her as an early birthday present. And Mom was all happy she could still wear the setting, which she'd missed having on her finger. She used to wear it all the time. I confronted my sister later that night and asked her what her problem was. She said nothing at first, but I kept pushing, and finally she said, "Look, if I knew you were going to mutilate Graham's ring, I wouldn't have told Mom to give it to you." I said she didn't. She said Mom should give it to one of the nephews. Sis said that's because she assumed Mom would want to keep it during her lifetime. Then she said if all Missy and I wanted was the diamond, that was our prerogative. But the setting was a piece of family history and sentimental, and she didn't want it getting tossed aside. I thought she made me look bad and said so. She told me to get over myself. I called her a witch. She told me if I'm getting married, I should think about growing up, and walked off. And I feel like she spoiled my engagement gift to Missy. I wholeheartedly agree with the sister in this situation. I think OP's the jerk, and frankly, yeah, I think if they want the diamond, sure, it's passed down, it's their prerogative. But I have a lot of respect for the sister and the mom for saving the setting that has lots of sentimental history in it. I think the only way that would make OP look bad is if they're insecure about being judged by other people for tossing aside the setting from their grandmother's engagement ring. And I think that's a reality they've got to just deal with because, hey, they wanted to save money and just take the rock out of it. Also, last thing, can I just say that I hate titles like this story had? Am I the jerk for taking the diamond out of an heirloom ring for my girlfriend's engagement ring? Because the actual discussion doesn't involve whether or not you're a jerk for taking the diamond out. This next story is from Fun Reindeer 4743. Am I the jerk for saying that the reason why I don't want to visit my mom is because it hurts to see her happy with her new family? My mom, 37-year-old female, and I were deeply close. She used to say that I'm her joy and pride. I'll turn 17, male, tomorrow, and I've decided that I no longer want to go to her house to visit her and her real family. Some context, my mom had an affair when I was 9. She left my dad because she fell in love with a married man, and the man ended up divorcing his wife and moving in with my mom. My dad had custody of me, and my mom was granted to have me on weekends. She seemed happy to have me and always treated me well. Her husband treated me well too, though sometimes he tried to make me respect him as a dad, as my mom's husband's ex-wife wanted nothing to do with the 3 kids they had, 18-year-old male, 17-year-old female, and 12-year-old male. My mom started spending more time because her dad had full custody. She sometimes acted more like a mother to them than to me. She would pick them up from school, never did that for me. She celebrated their birthdays while she was just a guest at mine. It was hard because it felt like I was gradually losing my mom. During her custodial, she was great, but she never tried beyond the minimum when it wasn't her time. I had a swimming competition in 2019. It was at school, but she didn't show up because it was on Wednesday, and her stepdaughter had an activity at school. She tried to compensate for it later, but the scar was left there. It isn't healthy for me to be at her house. I suffer a lot when I'm there because they get to have my mom 100%, and I only have the weekends. They also have a 5-year-old son. It sucks seeing them play the happy family, and even if her husband has treated me good, I see nothing but the man that destroyed my home and hurt my dad. This last weekend, I went to her house and told her that it's not healthy for me to be at her house because it hurts to see her that happy, and I can't. I also talked about the times she's missed events because it wasn't her custodial time, so I let her know that I'm never coming back. I also said that as long as she's in this family, we can't have a relationship because I'm afraid they'll make her choose, and she'll pick them over me like other times, and I'll be hurt again. She started crying and said that it wasn't the message she was trying to send. She said she never meant to make me feel cast aside and that she was picking them over me. She said that I can't do that because I'm her baby, but I told her this isn't her choice to make. She's called me every day saying that she hasn't been capable of sleeping and wants to see me talk. Her husband and kids are calling me the jerk for making her feel guilty for something unintentional. But I made my choice, and my dad has my back. Even if you sometimes need the fire, you've got to keep your distance for your safety and not get burnt. Honestly, this story just kind of made me sad hearing it. I don't think OP's the jerk. I think their feelings are really valid here. I have a lot of respect for OP being honest with their mom here. I think a lot of people would be afraid to just admit it and keep going through something that makes them feel terrible. I'm just left wishing that there was a way that they could somehow reconcile and somehow find something that works, but I guess that's just not possible with them being a full-time mom for the other kids. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. Every single video has awesome stories like our next one from a bunch of numbers. Am I the jerk for locking away my menstrual products so nobody else can access them? I, 23-year-old female, moved in with my in-laws a little over a year ago after getting married. I have a sister-in-law who's 14, my mother-in-law, and their maid who are all menstruating. Mother-in-law finds it shameful to discuss menstrual cycles or anything period-related. We had an argument when I called husband to tell him I ran out of pads, and she saw him enter the house with a bag of them. Apparently, he shouldn't even know what they are, let alone be purchasing them for me. Sister-in-law started her cycle shortly after I moved in. Mother-in-law is going through menopause, and so is their maid. All of this to say they all have irregular cycles. Mine's regular, frequent, and heavy. I can easily get through 14 heavy-duty pads in a day. Over the past 9 months, I realized that every time I needed pads, there were none left or they were down to 1 or 2. I realized everyone else was using my pads instead of buying their own. I spoke to the other women in the house and explained that I appreciate that they might get caught short, but if they could replace the pads or at least tell me they'd run low so I would have some. Every 3 weeks, it's the same thing. I never have pads even though I had at least a few when my cycle ended. So I bought a mini storage locker thing and put it in my ensuite bathroom, and I have the only key. This is also where the pads were anyway, so basically they were rifling through our bedroom frequently to access them. Sister-in-law found out the hard way and tattled to mother-in-law, who went off on me for being self-centered and unsympathetic. I told her that I was tired of being taken advantage of, and if she was so worried about her daughter, then she should actually take steps to provide for her. She dragged husband into it too, and said she would throw me out if I don't apologize for my comments and action. He reminded her that we move out in 2 months anyway, and that if she wants me out, then we'll gladly leave early. She backed down, but there's a tension between the in-laws and husband and I, with them giving us the silent treatment. Maybe I shouldn't have locked my pads away? First of all, I just don't understand why for some people, period-related talk is such a touchy subject or a no-no thing to talk about. I think it's undeniable it happens to billions of people in the world. Every single person on this planet has come from somebody that does it. It shouldn't be an issue to talk about. I think OP's not the jerk, it's products they bought for themselves with their own money. OP wasn't even mad about them mooching off of it, it was that they didn't say anything or replace it themselves. I think them being upset and calling people out on it and locking it away, especially after warning everybody, totally justifiable. This next story is from Aria025. Am I the jerk for asking my husband's friend to tell his wife to stop trying to visit my husband when she thinks I'm not there? My husband's primary residence is in Italy, mine is in the UK. On one of my trips to Italy, his housekeeper told me that the wife of my husband's friend kept trying to visit him while I wasn't there. She said she came over every single day, even though most days he wasn't even home or was working from home, so didn't even say hello to her. We went out together as a group, so I brought it up to her when it was just the two of us and asked her to stop. I told her my husband doesn't like being disturbed while he works, so she should really arrange something instead of just turning up. She waved me off and acted like it was no big deal. I asked her several more times to stop, but she continued to do it the minute I was back in the UK every single time. In the end, I was so fed up, I contacted her husband and asked him to tell his wife to stop. He wasn't aware this was going on and said he would speak to her. His wife is now angry at me and claiming I'm implying things about the type of woman she is. She also said I was treating her like her husband's property and I was pathetic for telling him instead of just admitting she made me insecure. My husband is mostly indifferent, but also told me I'd caused chaos in their friendship group as everybody knows what's going on and it's causing a lot of gossip. Am I the jerk? I don't think OP's the jerk. I feel like anybody in a committed relationship like that is going to feel weird about a friend of the opposite gender always trying to stop by, specifically when you're not there. What I'm confused about is why the husband is so indifferent about this, that they don't see a possible issue here or an ulterior motive, potentially. All I know is I would be very suspicious. Our next story is from VVV Throwaway. Am I the jerk for telling my twin brother not to accept rent money from our parents while they're also supporting me? My brother and I, 26 male times 2, are identical twins but opposites. Growing up, I tried to have a closer relationship, but he would avoid me and pretend he was an only child. These days, we almost never talk. Our stepdad, 51-year-old male, married our mom, 47-year-old female, when we were 5, and they've been accepting, supportive parents. I'm a PhD student in a city 80 to 90 minutes from home. My degree is fully funded, but the stipend and the teaching salary are very low for this area. So our dad offered to rent a studio apartment beside campus and pay most of my bills until I finish my PhD. I'm very grateful. I also live a cheap vegetarian life. I cook my own meals and I currently own an old mountain bike instead of a car. My brother has had no steady job or education for 6 years, since he was suspended from college and never went back. Sometimes he makes a few $100 by helping people move. Otherwise, he spent 6 years lifting weights and picking up men from apps or fetish websites to have loud, kinky you-know-what in our parents' house. A month ago, our mom rented an apartment for him because he said he was sick at living at home and it was unfair that they paid for my place. The problem is, my dad can't keep supporting 4 adults on his income. Mom's never worked. He makes a good 6-figure salary, but this is in California, where you burn through money just by being alive. While I was home for the weekend, Mom said she may have to start withdrawing from retirement savings to pay for monthly expenses. I said, but the only new expense is B's rent. She said it would make a big difference. Last night, our parents left after Father's Day dinner to grab drinks with friends, and my brother and I cleaned up the kitchen before I also left. He was talking about his apartment, and he asked why I was being so quiet. I ended up saying it was irresponsible for him to accept rent money, and he should work or move back in. He responded angrily saying I'm a hypocrite because our parents pay my rent too. I said it was different, not only because my life is 50 miles from home and his new crib is 3 minutes drive away, but because I'm actually doing something with my life. I don't think a career in academia is noble or anything, but at least it's a path to a future. My brother left and messaged our mom with his version of events. Our mom called today to yell about how my brother was right and I'm a hypocrite with no right to tell him not to accept help. She said I should quit my PhD and get a job if I was so worried. Now our dad is furious with mom for telling me to quit school. It seems obvious to me that he doesn't even want to support my brother like this, especially because my brother and parents don't even speak since he moved out. But dad feels like he doesn't have a choice. I mean, to me, I agree with everything OP said, so I don't think they're the jerk. Does it stir the pot for everybody else? Yeah, probably, but I think OP did the right thing. The brothers clearly mooching off their parents, telling them it's obvious and telling them right to their face that they are mooching. I think it's warranted. Our next story is from Puzzle-Headed Yak 4112. Am I the jerk for telling my sister her Disney obsession is embarrassing and she needs to grow up? One of my sisters is obsessed with all things Disney. When we were kids, she couldn't get enough of the movies, but she never grew out of it. Every year since she finished nursing school, her annual vacation is Disney related. Disneyland, Disney World, Disney cruises, or Disney parks in other countries. Except for the last 3 calendar years because of coronavirus, of course. Her scrubs for work have Disney characters. That would make some sense if she worked in a children's hospital or with kids, but she's only ever worked in nursing homes. She has some Disney stuff, but her house isn't overtaken like some of the fanatics I've heard online. I'll give her that. That would be a bridge too far. I know she hopes to retire in Florida near Disney. If she could afford it, she already would live in California or Florida instead of Louisiana. She's already booked a Disney trip for the next year, hoping the pandemic won't cancel it. She's turning 50 next year, and it's weird for a single woman with no kids to be into Disney and go on vacations alone. I had hoped her having to skip on her Disney trips would force her to grow up and maybe move on from the obsession, but it hasn't. And instead, she's going on her 25th Disney vacation, as she says. I told her that the obsession is weird and needs to stop, and she needs to grow up. She's almost 50 for crying out loud. I'm not the only one in the family that feels this way, but my sister doesn't want to listen. She just argues about it. It's weird, and there's a million things she could do on vacation that aren't Disney themed. Am I the jerk? I just told it like it was. Resoundingly, I think OP is the jerk. I think it's pretty blatantly clear that OP doesn't care much for the Disney experience, but I can't lie, I like a lot of things that Disney does. They do it well. For me, I love basketball. I bet if I set aside a lot of money and spend thousands for courtside tickets to go to see my favorite team every week. For some reason, I feel like OP would find an issue with that. Or is buying expensive season tickets every single year, going to as many games as possible, is that more acceptable because, basketball's cooler than Disney? What if I wear basketball jerseys or team-affiliated shirts everywhere I go? To me, God forbid their sister has something that they enjoy, brings them joy, and they can do all throughout their life. This isn't crack cocaine. They're going to Disney. This next story is from Square Binder 1234. Am I the jerk for getting angry at my, male 29, girlfriend, female 28, for hiding that she speaks Spanish? My family's from Mexico, but I was born in the US. I'm the only one in my family who doesn't speak Spanish. All my extended family, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, etc., speak it, but I never really cared for it that much. Katya, my girlfriend, knows I'm Mexican, and she asked if I spoke Spanish, but when I said no, she didn't push, which I found refreshing. Usually people ask a lot of questions. She never said she spoke Spanish, but I remember her watching something and hearing Spanish, but I figured she had subtitles on. If it's important, Kate is from Germany. Katya and I have been together for 3 months. It's not long, but it's been intense. My grandmother had a birthday on Saturday, and my family threw her a huge party. I invited Katya to come along with me, as it would be the perfect time to meet my family, and they're always very welcoming. Katya agreed. When we got there, everyone switched to English to speak to Kate, but they quickly went back to Spanish. I went to grab a beer and came back to find Katya talking to my aunt in Spanish. I came over and played it cool, telling her I didn't know she spoke it, yada yada. When Katya was with me, she spoke English, but whenever she spoke to one of my family members alone, she switched because they switched. It made me really uncomfortable, especially since it wasn't your typically barely spoken Spanish. It was full-on fluent Spanish, and she understood my fast-speaking relatives. I got really annoyed with her but said nothing. My grandma told me how much she loved Katya and how she's happy I found such an amazing girl. All my family loved her and couldn't stop singing praises about her. On our way back, I got really angry with her, and when we got to my apartment, I told her that I felt betrayed that she hid that she spoke Spanish and how she made me a fool out there. I admit that I was shouting because I was so angry. I felt humiliated. She asked me to calm down and told me she never hid anything. I accused her of sneakily making her way into my family instead of having them warm up gradually. She asked if I was being serious, and I confirmed. She called me a jerk and left my apartment. I was too angry to stop her. I'm waiting for her to call me with apologies, but she hasn't been in touch since Saturday night. I told my brother about it, and he told me that I'm the fool, but I feel really disrespected by Katya. Am I the jerk for getting angry and shouting she hid she spoke my language? I think OP is the jerk here. Does this feel like something that would or should have come up well before 3 months into the relationship? Probably, but in the sense that it just kind of inconsequentially pops up. I don't really blame OP if they had like a twinge of discomfort, because telling somebody you know another language feels like something you would kind of just talk about yourself, and after 3 months you feel like it would have been mentioned at least once somewhere. That said, I feel like OP totally overreacted here to something that was distinguishably an awesome thing about Katya. Like, clearly their family loved it, so I don't understand where OP's feeling embarrassed. Frankly, I don't think OP's ever going to get that apology, and hopefully, OP can apologize in time to maybe save a relationship that sounds like it was going pretty well up to this point. This next story is from Expensive Ad 94.99. Am I the jerk for telling my wife she ruined Father's Day for me? 36-year-old male with 2 kids below the age of 10. My wife, 36-year-old female, and I work full-time. My wife is the breadwinner, but my recent promotion puts me closer to her income. I've been doing 98 to 100% of all the cooking, cleaning, errands, and kid stuff since the pandemic began. Prior to that, it was closer to 50-50. My wife is very much the planner. I'm more the execution. I do virtually all of the driving for my family because my wife just hates driving, and we live in a big city. 2 kids with activities. I'm driving a lot and spend the entire day Saturday driving around in the city, shuttling and running errands. It's exhausting. Yesterday on Father's Day, wife during breakfast said, I want to take the kids to the beach. Around a 1-hour drive one way, no traffic, to see the really low tide. I say I personally don't want to do that, but you're more than welcome to take the kids if you want. I'd really like to relax. You'd have thought I just murdered our dog in front of her. She said, what? What do you mean I can take the kids? You want me to do that by myself? How dare you? Why can't you be accommodating to something I want to do today? I say, I'm not stopping you from going, I just don't want to do that today. It's a long drive and I really don't feel like doing all that since I drove all day yesterday. If you want to take the kids, go for it. It's 9 a.m. So far all I've done is wake up, get told I need to make coffee and get breakfast started. I've made no plans and have not been asked what I want to do for the day. She says, I can't believe you would do this. I can't believe you tell me to take them by myself. I say, then don't go, I guess? She then left the table, explained she had work to do, then shut herself in her office for the next few hours. I took that time to clean out said car, during which she came out and demanded an apology from me for telling her she couldn't do what she wanted to do today. I said, no, I didn't stop you from doing anything. She says, why didn't you offer a different suggestion of what to do if you didn't want to do that? I say, why should I have offered a different activity when I wasn't stopping you from doing the one you wanted in the first place? This argument continued until 2 a.m. Monday morning when I finally lost my temper and said, this stupid argument and your attitude completely ruined my Father's Day, which helped nothing. She lashed out with, how could you say that after all I did for you today? I spent so much time planning and doing all this for you. To clarify, all of this was left me to make the breakfast because she had to run a quick 30-minute errand, told me she was going to cancel movie tickets she bought for herself, her father, and me because I didn't want to drive her to the beach, ignored me through dinner with her parents, and continued argument into the night and early morning. Oh, and if you're wondering, this beach time did not contain any sort of surprise or anything. She literally just wanted to go to the water and hang out. I just feel bad for OP. They're clearly not a jerk here. It sounds like it's miserable just opening your eyes in the morning. We need to send OP an SOS STAT. And our final story of the day is from Throw It Away ACCY. Am I the jerk for getting my son a peanut birthday cake even though my nephew is allergic? My son just turned 7. He wanted peanut butter cake, so I got him the peanut butter cake. My nephew, 8, is severely allergic, so I also got a small generic vanilla cake for him and any other kid who may not want the peanut one. The peanut cake was decorated, had candles, etc., and it was the cake the kids saw and is on pictures. The vanilla cake was small and garden variety. It was in the kitchen and I cut it up there and took pieces out for kids who wanted it, about 5 kids out of 20. Most kids at the party were cousins of my son. My husband and I both come from big families, plus some friends. Adults were also there, mostly my siblings and my husband's. When my sister saw the peanut cake, she freaked and yelled at me, saying if her son touches the cake, he could die. I told her that I told the kids it's peanut cake and that I have a vanilla one in the kitchen for my nephew. She freaked out and her husband walked her into the house to calm her down. When she came back, the kids were already eating cake. She asked me, "So you're okay with my son dying so that yours can have cake?" I told her that's absurd and I'm not getting into it at a kid's party. After the party, she said I'm an inconsiderate jerk for not taking her kid into consideration. If he had just a little bit of the cake by accident, he could die. So, am I the jerk? I think OP is not the jerk under one obvious contingency. Well ahead of time, they made an obvious and clear effort to explain to their aunt and anybody else that was coming to the party that the cake would be peanut butter and that they should take or express proper concerns. If OP didn't listen to any of their concerns or tell them ahead of time, then yeah, they're pretty clearly the jerk. Otherwise, you don't know if that kid poked their finger against the cake to take a quick private test. You don't know how well their cross-contamination practices were with both cakes and utensils. So it just depends what OP did as far as planning and warning. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another Am I the Jerk Here story that was crazier than any of the ones in this video, click on that left video. Or if you missed my latest video, click on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.